Okay, my creatives, this is a full moon, and this is a full moon in Scorpio, and we have two full moons in the month of May. The next one is on May 30th, May 31st, which is also known as a blue moon. So very rare, right? It happens every blue moon, right? Let's talk about this full moon first. This moon, this full moon in Scorpio, is going to be very, very deep. This is going to be very emotional, and it's going to be very transformational. See, they go hand in hand, emotional, transformational. You need the emotion. You need the emotional life to go through a transformational process. It's an alchemical process at its core. Now, a lot of times I get the feeling that you get the feeling that I'm just sitting here saying, set your intentions, plant a seed, do this, do that, all that, all those beginning steps. Yeah. This is not about a beginning step. This phase that we're in right now, the one that we're experiencing starting now, really, but for the next 3 to 5 days, is all about releasing. Release, let it go. Just let it go. Now, it can be a releasing or a letting go of a project that you've been working on for a while, or you're in development or a certain phase. That's really great, right? You're letting it go. You're letting it go out into the world. You're sharing a certain phase of that developmental process that you're going through, and that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. There's another layer, another element of releasing something here that's no longer helpful to you as a creative. It's not helping your life. It's not helping your creativity, or the thing that you really want to do over the next 3, 6, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So it's going to be addressing all of that. And this full moon in Scorpio, emotional life, Scorpio, is all about release. So on some level, we need to get to that release energy. So it's going to be releasing the project, releasing the outdated habituated pattern that is no longer a part, or you no longer want it to be a part of your future life. My mom used to say this, and it's it is an old saying. I think she said it was from Jamaica, but it's like, what doesn't kill you makes you fat, right? And then there's another version of it which is also goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's not true, because there are some patterns that are running right now inside of you from a creative point of view, right? From a non-releasing point of view, from a habituated point of view, that you are actually running, and it's actually interfering with your ideal future self. They are actually getting in the way of you becoming your full creative self. And what happens is when you start to push up against those moments or those habituated patterns, it feels uncomfortable. And then sometimes we can say that doesn't feel right. And it's not that it doesn't feel right or it feels wrong. It's actually unfamiliar. And that's what's happening right now. You're going to move into those certain areas. You cannot not. You cannot not move into those habituated patterns of behavior that at the heart of it all doesn't serve you. So you're going to be moving into these areas, and I guarantee you it's going to happen at one point or another this month of May, for sure, most likely in the first 2 weeks. And you're going to say, well, that doesn't feel very comfortable. And that's the whole point. The whole point of transformation, personal growth, having emotional life, is going outside of your comfort zone. And so it's not going to feel comfortable. How could it? It's unfamiliar. So it's not really even saying that it's comfortable or uncomfortable. It would be ideal if we could have the perspective of, wow, that really feels unfamiliar. Because if I say it, if I frame it, if I see it, if I honestly see it and feel it in that way, it helps me to go through that transformational transition process. Now, if I can authentically use that perspective, oh, that feels unfamiliar. I gain on having more spaciousness for that experience to integrate with me and to help me transform. If I say, oh, that doesn't feel comfortable, or I don't like that doesn't feel good, what I'm doing is I'm pulling away from the growth opportunity, from that new behavior, from that change, from that challenge. And in some ways, I'm doing myself a disservice or slowing everything down. And I hope you can differentiate and see the difference there. And this is not about not trusting yourself, right? It's not about not trusting yourself. When you're at 0 point, when you're in the open space, when you're in a meditative space, if you're in a deeply allowing space, you're non-reactive, and you want to have a feeling of like, do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I say yes? Do I say no? That's a completely different experience than when you're pushing up a comfort zone and your body is giving you feedback based on habituated patterns. So that doesn't feel good. That feels uncomfortable. That's unfamiliar. See? Right? If I go into that world, that's unfamiliar. There's no value judgment, and there's a big difference in that. So these shifts are going to happen. And I would love, my personal hope for you is that you would experience them consciously. And when you move towards something consciously, it gives you more opportunity, more chance of changing that pattern behavior. Because the old patterns have to drop away in order for you to live your ideal future life. But you need to identify them so that you can consciously let them go. Because we're talking about making an unconscious pattern conscious. And if you can't make an unconscious pattern go away unconsciously, I wish we could. So let me get to the essence. The essence is ultimately this. And this is why you're here. This is why we do the creative work we do, right? You have an ideal future. You have something that you want to create. You have an unlived experience of that in your heart of hearts, and you know you want it to live into the world, right? That's the gap. That's why we create. That's why we are artists. That's why we do what we do. Otherwise, we'd be happy just going to watch a ball game and watching Netflix and chilling out. Okay, so here's the point. Every day, and I mean every day, and actually every moment, but let's go with every day for right now. Every day we have choice points. Now, I talk about this in the creative work I do, and there is a very strong correlation between the choice points in day-to-day life and the choice points in your creative work, especially narrative. But we'll talk about that another time. Every day we're making decisions as to what we're going to do next. And if I focus on the positive, right, meaning I'm focusing on that which I want to do, right, not what I don't want to do. If I only focus on what I want to do, then I can map my life very clearly. And you can map your life very clearly. Like, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I had breakfast. Those are all things that you did, right? So there's a firm reality. You're not talking about what you didn't do, right? I woke up, I went to the drugstore and picked up a pack of cigarettes, right? You didn't do that, right? But you don't talk about that because that's not what you did. So we're focusing only on what you do. Okay, that's important. So when you make choice points, you're going to focus on what you do. So in order to make a choice point, how do you make it? Well, you make it, hopefully, because you've tethered yourself to your North Star, to your ideal future of what it is that you want to create. And in some ways, what you're going to do now is you're going to allow your ideal future self to make the decisions for you. So, what we need to do now is to make choices, decisions on the day-to-day level, day-to-day, moment to moment, that will impact and help to grow your ideal future self who is creating the things that they want to create. And by default, those old patterns that you don't want to have in your life anymore, they will start to wither and die. Why? Because you're not feeding it. You're not feeding it with activity. You're not feeding it with your intention. You're not feeding it with your life energy. And that is what we want. You are not going to kill them because that's giving them energy, right? And the amount of energy it takes to kill something is significant, right? What you're going to do is you're going to stop feeding them. You're going to stop interacting with them. And through that non-feeding, the withering and dying process will happen of its own volition. So, here we go. This is the homework. Pick 3. Pick 3. Consciously pick the 3 that you feel would make the biggest impact in your life if that was no longer part of your active choice points, and that you would pick that, right? Let's pretend that one of them is having a challenging day and then you going out for a fast food dinner. So you go to a drive-thru and you buy whatever you buy at a drive-thru, and you go home and you eat it and stuff yourself full of fast food. Junk food is what they call it. And you go, you know what? I'm no longer going to do that. That one I'm going to watch for, and I'm going to actively weed it out. And on top of that, I'm going to tell myself that when I do have that impulse, when I do have that strong desire, that feeling, I'm going to drive myself to a market and pick up something that I really enjoy that is part of my ideal future, like organic grapes. So you're going to have 3 of those, and you're going to write them down, and then you're going to put in the ideal future self behavior. Now, I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't eat. I'm using that as an example. If your ideal future self is part of that is eating at McDonald's, then that's your ideal future self. I'm not here to evaluate that. I'm giving an example just to move this thing along so you can get to it. So write it down. Okay, now you have your 3. And then what you're going to do over the next 2 to 4 weeks between now and actually the blue moon on May 31st is you're going to watch them. You're going to watch like a hawk. And when they surface, you now have a choice point. You can prune it away, or you can make the choice that is aligned with your ideal future self, right? So we're looking to prune it, not by getting out your scissors, but by making an active choice that's aligned with your ideal future self and execute on that. And you do that consciously over and over and over, and you do it with awareness, because awareness is where it all starts. So, a little while ago, on the last email, was that thing about planting seeds. Now we're about releasing. Now we're releasing, and we're moving towards the nurturing process of the growth and the releasing. And interestingly enough, Beltane is also on Friday the 1st. Beltane is part of a nature-based sort of Wiccan / spiritual / nature-based approach to life. And that's when they would light up the bonfires and they would burn away the old. They would burn away the old winter, bring warmth back to the earth so that more growth can happen. And this is what we're doing right now. We're lighting our bonfires, and the bonfire will help that process of clearing away the dross. And the deep waters are calling us too, so that we can nurture whatever it is that's going to be growing. And your ideal future self and your ideal creative projects and your manifestations and your offerings to the world are getting literally closer and closer to you every time you make choices that are aligned with your ideal future self, because we're collapsing that space between you, the you now, and the you of your ideal future self. So you're making choices from your ideal future self, and you're making choices for your ideal future self. Isn't that great? Isn't that a great feeling that you're making choices for your ideal future self and from your ideal future self? So it can be completely unique to you and you alone, because it's your ideal future. It's your creative life. And that's what I'm here to help and support. So hopefully this is making an impact, and it's encouraging you to make these choices, to look at these 3 items, write them down, make different behaviors. I would love, and I mean love, I would love to hear from you. What's working, what's not working, what's challenging, what growth came from this exercise, and stay in touch. Okay. Remember, Townsend Studios, where creativity comes to breathe.